there are very few feelings in this world, especially as a female, that make you feel better than putting something really fucking heavy over your head. Like really heavy. Nothing feels like that.
Welcome to another episode of the Common Podcast. Guys, today's guest is an absolute treat. She is an athlete, a student, a business owner, but what she's mostly known for is being a prestigious international weightlifting coach. She started off her business in the year 2020 called Bexar Barbell as a coach in the midst of the whole COVID pandemic. Till this day, the year 2022, she now has over 240 athletes that she either trains remotely or in one of her few gyms. To say that her story is inspiring would be a true understatement. And I'm glad to have her here today to share her story with y'all. Guys, as you all know, the podcast, you can find it with The Common Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you can get your podcasts. Also, if you'd like to get in contact with us, you can find us on Instagram being The Real Common Podcast. Thank you all so much for the support. I hope that y'all will enjoy this episode as much as I did. And until next time, enjoy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Common Podcast, where we speak upon common sense and realize it really isn't that common. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so very excited to introduce today's guest. She's highly regarded and very fondly spoken about in the Olympic lifting community and the CrossFit community. I've heard bits and parts of her story, but I'm so excited to hear it from her herself. To know her is to love her, Miss Brittany Rucker. Welcome to the show, Brittany.
Hi, how are you doing this morning?
It's an honor. So first of all, before we even get started, I want to say thank you for making the time. I know you're a very busy individual. You even flexed on me the other day, right? I was asking you.
Oh my God, I hate it.
What time would you be available? You're like, well, I have so-and-so athletes coming in.
So we have camp this weekend. So we have a really large club and we have camp this weekend, so pretty much we only really get to bring our remote athletes together at big meets, and they don't ever get to just train together. So I had an idea. I'm like, why don't we just have like a summer camp? So I have one athlete, I think only one is flying in today, and then we use the same media people anytime we go to meets. It's 6 for 6. They take all of our stuff. They're incredible. They fly in today, and then I think we have like 20 or 30 more people flying in through the next couple days.
Damn. Yeah, because when you told me that, I was like, okay, I get it. Get over yourself.
I didn't
You have so many athletes, right?
I was just like objectively speaking, like, hey, I'm free at this time because we have someone coming in.
I'm totally kidding. But it hasn't always been that way, right? It hasn't always been where you have athletes flying in. That's kind of where I want to start the conversation. But before we get to that, for the listeners that don't know who you are, can you explain to them what you do and where they can find you, most importantly? So give a little shout out to your socials.
So I coach Olympic weightlifting. I'm out of San Antonio. We do have our main location out of San Antonio. We do also have a location out of Corpus, New Braunfels, and Edinburgh.
Wow.
In which one of the coaches, I've mentored coaches there. But if you want to actually be out of our main location, you can get a hold of me on Instagram, which is with Bear's Instagram, just Bear with an X for those who don't know how to pronounce it. Bexar Barbell. And then my Instagram is SlimThick64.
Hey.
Either one. And, it's been my Instagram handle for like 5 years, and I'm at this point now. I think like 3 years ago, I was at a meet, and somebody came up to me, and they're like, hey. And I was like, what's up? And they're like, are you Slim Thick? And I'm like, yeah.
Is that the most marketable? It's okay though. You have the Bexar Barbell.
Yeah, it is what it is. At this point, I'm just not the kind of person to have like my name as my Instagram handle or whatever. So I'm like, I don't even care at this point. It is what it is. It could be way worse.
I think if there's anybody that can pull it off just from like the little bit that I've heard you speak, I think you're the one that can pull it off. So I think you're good. So take us back to the beginning. I kind of want to talk about how you even got into weightlifting, because you can tell just by, for the people that are following, you can tell how passionate you are, which we eventually get to that to some point. But how did you start weightlifting?
So let me think. So, okay, I was an athlete my whole life. And
Okay.
then when I graduated high school, I kind of felt a little lost, right? Because, how many of us high school athletes get out of high school, we don't play in college, and we're like, what are we supposed to do with our lives?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really know what to do. So I actually got into motocross,
Okay.
kind of by accident. I was a paramedic, and I had a weird off day at work. And one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, have you ever ridden a dirt bike?" And I was like, "No, like why would I ever have done that?"
Yeah, right.
And so she owned a motocross track with her and her husband. She had me come over after work, and she taught me how to ride, and that was kind of it. Like definitely have a very like obsessive personality, and so I just like fixated. And I rode. I got pretty good. I was like maybe 6 months into riding, and I started riding like with my pro card. So I rode at a pretty high level. And then that being said, it's such like a niche, especially women's motocross. It's such a like a niche thing. It's not like super popular. But
Okay.
anyway, and then I got really hurt. Um, kind of rehabbed, kind of got into like a weird mental place, found CrossFit.
Was that a
Um,
crash that happened or?
yeah, I broke my sternum, broke my
Oh
hip.
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. So, found CrossFit, started doing CrossFit, really fell in love with CrossFit. And then as a coach, how I started coaching was I kind of was at a small CrossFit gym and then I ended up going to a bigger one. And the owner of that CrossFit gym kind of pulled me aside one day and he was like, "Hey, I think you should go get your CrossFit level one." And I was like, "No, like I don't even know what I'm doing." And he was like, "No, like you don't know, but you're a coach. You just don't see it yet." And I was like, "I don't think
Mm.
so." So instead, because I'm stubborn, I went and got my NASM personal training certification. And actually, I don't think I've ever talked about this part on a podcast. And I was like, no, I'm going to go be a personal trainer for a little bit. So I got a
Okay.
job at Gold's on my days
Oh
off from being
wow.
a paramedic, and I hated it. I was like, this is so dumb. Like, none of these people actually want to be here. They just pay a lot of money
And a lot of
just
them
to
suck
say they have
too.
yeah. So I quit, and then I got my CrossFit level one, and I started coaching CrossFit. Um, There's this one guy who wasn't a coach, but he was a really good CrossFitter at the gym I went to,
Mm.
and he started helping me with my snatch and clean and jerk. And I really just kind of fell in love with the lifts. And I didn't even know it was a sport at that point. I just knew I really liked it. And then I learned that it was a sport, and then, another hyperfixation, right? And then I'm like, okay, perfect, cool. I'm gonna be all about this. So I went to the owner of the gym and I was like, hey, I really want to do weightlifting. He's like, well, we don't have a weightlifting program. I was like, okay, so what do we do? He's like, well, you can go get your USAW level one, and you can just start a program here. And I was like, but I don't know what I'm doing. So
Mm.
ended up taking my level one, and at the gym, I took my level one. The owner there was like, why are you a CrossFitter if you want to be a weightlifter? And I was like, I don't know where to go to be a weightlifter. And he was like, just stay here. So he ended up offering me a job as his CrossFit coach,
Mm.
and then I was a weightlifter on his team.
Oh wow.
Um, and that was kind of it. And then I met, which is now my ex-business partner, at that gym. We ended up leaving. We started a barbell club. And then in COVID, kind of definitely saw our differences as people, and we just wanted different things out of the businesses we were running.
Mm.
And in May of 2020 is when I officially left and just walked away and started Bear. And yeah, it's kind of just been a whirlwind ever since then.
Yeah, that's not something that you hear. You start especially a company where people are going to be so close together during the pandemic, during the COVID, and it's just
Yeah.
a success, right? In 2020, you literally did it in the middle of the pandemic. How did that happen? Because people weren't scared to get together over there.
Um, so we had a pretty close-knit group of people. Um, when when it happened and the gyms were supposed to close down, essentially what happened is I reached out to my business partner at the time and I was like, "Hey, like we got to loan out equipment. Like we have to take care of these people because
Mm.
in my mind, so many people, I mean, let's be honest, we're all damaged, right? And so for so many people, fitness is the way that kind of holds them together. It's like their thing, right? They can have a job they hate. maybe they have a lot of childhood trauma, like, I don't know, whatever. We're all messed up. And for a lot of us, fitness kind of keeps us sane. And in the midst of everything, I was like, we have to take care of these people. Like, we have to figure it out. And she didn't want to. She was like, I don't want to, we're not loaning out equipment. It kind of got ugly. Like, legal stuff was thrown around. And for many years, I'd kind of been this submissive person who would kind of just put up with whatever. And for some reason, that day, I was like, no, no, like, we have to take care of these people. And so that's how Bear all started. I pretty much was like, hey, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this by myself. I was a paramedic for 9 years. I don't know how to run a business. Um, but I'll figure it out. And I'll figure it out because I want to take care of you guys, because this is potentially going to be one of the worst years of your entire life. And you should at least have this to kind of keep you together. So, there was about 70, maybe 75 athletes on the existing club. And when I left, we sent out an email that was like, hey, Brittany's leaving. She's going to go do her own thing. The other person was like, hey, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to keep everything. Everything will be normal. Brittany doesn't really know what she's going to do, but she's going to go do it. And like 90 to 95% of our athletes were like, yeah, we're going with B. Um,
Wow.
so the day I got home from the lawyer that I signed all the paperwork, I text one of my athletes, it was one of my friends, and I was like, hey, like, whoever's local, tell them to meet me in the backyard, because we'd been training at the garage, because I have like a really large garage at my house. Um, and we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out, right? And anybody who was remote, we were on Zoom, and it was kind of just like, hey, I don't know, guys, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm lucky that like I have a really good group of people, so we kind of had a bubble. Um, nobody got COVID, nobody like, gave it to anyone else. I live on the west side of San Antonio. I'm just like a white kid on the west side, right?
Okay.
And the cops would drive by and we'd be like, and they would like, I remember one time a cop pulled up and I was like, damn, man. And he was like, there's maybe 15 people in my garage. And he was like, you have 10 people in there, right? And I was like, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, 10. And he was like, are you guys just working out? And I was like, yes, sir. And he was like, okay, all right. And then like that was it. Nothing ever happened. My neighbors were all super cool. There was one Saturday that it started raining. And normally, so we would train in the evenings during the week and then Saturday morning. And Saturday morning was the only time the sun was kind of an issue because it would come through the garage doors. So like every Saturday morning we would go out, put up these 10 by 10 pop-up tents like in the driveway, put chairs out there. And then one day it just started raining and I was like, "Oh my God." We had to close the garage doors. So we're essentially like hotboxing in my garage with like chairs up against the wall. There's like 15 people in there and I'm like, this is not this is not right. Like we can't, I have to figure out a solution.
Yeah.
So that's when we kind of started looking into, because in my head we were never gonna grow. Like I didn't want to grow. I was totally fine. I grew up very middle class. I like my salary hasn't changed and we've quadrupled in size. I don't need more money. And so I was just like, if we never grow, that's okay. So I never thought we would need a bigger space.
It just,
It was never the plan.
it just
Never.
happened genuinely. I mean,
Yeah,
I can just see just by the way you're talking about this that you just genuinely have a care for people. And I think that people feel that. If I can feel that within the, 10 minutes that we've been talking right now, I'm pretty sure the 60 people that went with you, they felt the exact same way. Like, I need to be around this person. I don't know what it is, but I need to be around this person.
yeah, it's I don't know. And of course, and I think one of the hardest parts of a coach is realizing that for so many, weightlifting, fitness in general, it's just a chapter of their life. Because for people like me, this is my whole life, and so sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around when people quit, if it's for personal reasons or whatever, because in your head you're like, what do you mean you don't want to lift anymore? But I would say out of the 60, there's probably still like 30 to 40 that are still on the team. And so that's cool because, you'll have like a new person walk in and they'll be like, oh my God, like this is amazing, this is whatever, and like people who only know me as being like this international level coach and whatever, and they'll be like, oh my God. And I know a couple of my athletes, like I have a girl, Steph, who she's been around forever, and she was like, it's so funny hearing people like talk about you, because to me, I'm like, man, like I remember B when I met her, like
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's cool though, because I have so many people in my life who have seen me grow, from like, I don't know, I was not like a confident person. I was not the person I'm now. I'm like, I'll go through a wall. Like, I don't care. But that wasn't me.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
You talked about how you were kind of like a pushover. You're maybe a little bit too agreeable. That strikes me because you don't seem like an agreeable person at all. You seem as a, I mean, to be successful, I believe, especially in the business um, spectrum, you have to be non-agreeable to a certain point. Like you can't let the consumers or anybody really push and shove you too much.
Yeah, I don't, the business partner that I had definitely, um, just kind of like, I'm not even here to like talk bad about anybody, but it just
Mm-hmm.
didn't work, and it didn't make me somebody, because I already was that person. But I would say the interaction and the way things shook up, it wasn't even on purpose. Like, I don't know when I changed. I don't know when. I used to be a really emotional person also. Like, it was really easy for me to get my feelings hurt, and like I just wasn't super confident, and like the things that kept me up at night then are nowhere near the things that keep me up at night now. Um, then like I was insecure, and like I didn't believe in myself. And now I stay up at night making sure, Mario's program is right, making sure
That.
that's like, now it's like other people's dreams and like successes, and making sure I'm leading them correctly. Whereas back then it was like, how am I actually this person? Can I actually do this? Like, I definitely still have some imposter syndrome. Like, the first time I went on an international trip, I remember thinking like, I don't belong here. Like, I don't belong with these coaches. And then like I kind of developed friendships with those higher level coaches, and still like, I think it's good to be humble. I think it's good to like not think you're hot shit. Um, like I still, every time, man, like Travis Mash is a really high level coach, and anytime I talk to him, I'll ask him for advice, and he's always here to help me. And every time I'm just so grateful, because to me, I see such a difference between us. And he'll tell me like, no, like you are one of the best coaches in the country. And in my head, I'm like, no, like I'm not. But I think somewhere along the line, I didn't really have a strong support system growing up, and I learned, I needed to become the person that I needed when I was younger, so I could be that for other people. Because I never had that. I don't even know, I can't even attribute where I've gotten this far to any singular person. I just realized I needed to be more for other people.
I like it. I like it. So I saw this clip of you. You were on another podcast. You uploaded it on your Instagram. You talk about burning the ships. Forget about Plan B. But you talk about it being a very spontaneous moment, almost as if like you didn't know you had that in you. It's like,
No,
right?
no.
That's what it
So,
sounded like, and you're like,
yeah, so kind of the story with that. It's funny, I actually have, that's what the shirt I have
oh,
on.
hey,
It's the
nice,
Burn the Ship shirt, and it's literally a tattoo. Um,
wow.
yeah, there's actually, I don't know how I feel about saying this. I don't think I've said this on a
No, no,
podcast.
go ahead.
There's like 20 athletes that have the tattoo. It's not a
Wow.
cult. It's not a cult.
I was gonna say that. So when the cops showed up, they probably thought that there was like this barbell
Right?
cult.
I'm like, we're not praising nobody, I promise. So it was one of my athletes who's actually still on the team. Her name's Steph. Different Steph, her name's Steph Page. And she, like, her boyfriend sucked, and like her job sucked. I don't know. Sometimes I get on these stupid soapboxes, and she was like, just like, yeah, well, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna do this, and this doesn't work, I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And she was like, and this, at this point, I was still not a confident person. Maybe this is when I found myself. I don't know. Because I was that person too. Like, honestly, it's kind of hypocritical. I was having this big speech with her, and then I was like, oh man, maybe I should listen to myself.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, like, break up with your stupid boyfriend. Like, what are you doing? Like, fucking quit your job, go to school, like do what you want to do and like fuck being like, well, if that doesn't work, I'm gonna do this. And so that's just I remember driving home from having that conversation with her and I'm like, yeah. And then so when I started Bear, I mean, man, I had every reason to fail. I mean, I started $15,000 in debt. That's what I had to pay a lawyer. I paid a lawyer to get away from the other business I was a part of. And I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't get any. I joke around that like I went through a divorce and I lost the house, the cars, all the furniture, and all I got was like a lot of the kids. The only thing that works out is the kids pay me every month. So like it works. But like I started Bear with a couple sets of pin leg plates I found on Craigslist. Um and like that was it. And like I don't know, like I had every reason to fail. I don't know, there were times that I was super stressed and I still had my paramedic certification, so I'd like get on the internet and start looking at paramedic jobs and I'd be like, "What are you doing? Like stop." Like no. Because and it wasn't even for me, it was for everyone else because it would have been so much easier for me to be like, you know what? Like, I made good money when I was a paramedic. I worked 2 days a week. I made like 70 grand a year. And
Wow.
I took naps at work, right? Like, it was nice. And there were times that I'd be like, man, how big of a piece of shit would I be? How big of a piece of shit would I be to do this for all these people and be like, you know what? This is hard. I don't really want to do this. This is really tough. I don't want to start my own business in the middle of a pandemic. Fuck you guys. Sorry the fact that you feel like you need to train. And so I felt like almost like a moral obligation to my athletes. And I think really that's what made it easy. Like, I don't know, there was a podcast I did and they asked me like, well, what did you run into? What issues for starting your own business? And I'm like, man, once I got rolling, I didn't have any issues. I just had to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Um, but when you do something for other people, I don't know. And I'm an extrinsic person, so it's different, but it's easier. Like it's easier for me to pour myself into people and then just like, I don't know, watch them succeed. Like it's never one of the biggest arguments I had with my ex-business partner was when I would tell her, I'm like, it's not about us. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about the coach. Like there's a reason when Mario, I know you've done a podcast with him,
Yes.
goes on a platform. There's a reason the spotlight's on him and he's on an elevated stage and you as a coach are standing behind a chalk bucket in the dark. Like it's not about you. And I think a lot of coaches miss the mark there.
100%. I think a lot of people missed the mark there. I had a show where I talked about how the most depressed people actually are the most self-centered. It's actually the so people have this, this quote that says like whenever you're going through a hard time, work on yourself or I need to do me. There's some truth to that, right? I'm not trying to debunk that. But what we actually have found is that when you do stuff for other people that you care about, it tends to make you feel a lot better about yourself. So I totally agree with that.
It's never it's never about me. It's even like I never wanted, it's not that I never wanted because that makes it sound like I don't want it. My goal was never to be a high level coach. I wanted to help my athletes reach their goals at the highest level possible. But in my head, like the first time Mario made a team, I was like, what do you mean? Like Team USA, what? And then I had another athlete make a team and another athlete make a team. And I'm like, all right, I need to figure out what's going on. Like, I need to figure out how to make this happen more often because I didn't ever want to miss a team because I didn't do something right. Like, it's my job to guide them. So then it turned into like NRS numbers and spreadsheets. And okay, Mario, we need this number to get this. And Brianna, we need this. Anna, we need this. But that was never the plan. Like so many coaches are like, I want to coach at the Olympics and I want to coach internationally. And I'm like, I just want to help my athletes enjoy their lives. And if that means they go to AO finals, if that means they do whatever, if that means they finally snatch whatever number, I don't care. So in a weird backwards way, my goals shifted around other people's goals. And so now, yeah, I want to coach at the Olympics only because I have athletes that want to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think,
Otherwise, it's kind of whatever.
yeah, I think you need to talk to Mario. I had Mario on my show, and I was trying to like, obviously, I didn't use the term "burn the ships," but Mario
Yeah.
does so much, and I was telling him, he's like, he's going to school, He's a
Oh, I
trainer. He's a
yeah.
like a high level weightlifter. I'm like, dude, and he's trying to be a stripper, right? He's always taking off his shirt while
Oh,
training.
I know. And then they have to see the shirts on the internet.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, like you're special. You're so special, dude. This last competition, he's officially what, the seventh strongest.
Yeah, he's the seventh best. And what's crazy is he was hurt.
That's what I heard.
He Which what's crazy is I didn't even realize how he hurt himself till we were in Greece and we were discussing it. And kind of it was mostly just miscommunication, but he essentially did something really stupid that if he would have just texted me, I could have clarified. Um,
Taking off his
he
shirt.
used yeah, exactly. No, he had like banded snatch deadlifts, and I guess at his gym he only had like really thick bands, and so he definitely set himself up for failure. Which I was like, Mario, you're dumb. Like, really? So I don't know. It ended up kind of being a blessing because it's always good um, to kind of take a step back sometimes. And he still performed extremely well. Like
Yeah.
he hit his comp max on snatch. He took a crack at his clean and jerk max, and really set himself up to be in a good position for the rest of the year to make teams. So it worked out. But yeah, I mean, God, the kid moves so hard. It's funny. Anytime he goes to meets with us, he sleeps so much. And my other coaches will be like we went to Denver for AO finals and he slept. No, he did homework the whole drive there. And then we got there at like 5 p.m. And I was like, "Hey, go take a nap." Um, and he went and lay down and he didn't wake up till noon the next day. And you know, like when like moms go in and check on their baby and they like put their hand over their mouth to make sure they're breathing. I think I checked on him like 3 times. Like, is my I always he's like my wonder kid, right? That's what he's in my phone as. And I'm always like, yeah, yeah,
he's,
okay, he's breathing.
he's
And they'd be like,
alive.
do we need yeah, yeah. Do we need to feed him? I'm like, just leave him. Just let him sleep. Because he doesn't sleep. Like
Oh
the
man.
kid's probably busier than I am.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's crazy. If I could get him to slow down, and so the goal is for him to hit a higher total by the end of the year and get on something called stipend. So he'll get like a monthly allowance from
Fire.
USA Weightlifting. And then if he gets on stipend, then I'm gonna be like, all right, we gotta cut back your
You
hours.
gotta burn the
Like you
ships.
you gotta fucking stop working so much, kid.
Yeah.
So
He's
I don't
crazy.
know. We'll see. Yeah.
Listen, guys, are y'all tired of being fat and unhealthy? Look, I feel you. I've struggled with weight loss for a majority of my life, but I recently lost 32 pounds. I want to tell y'all exactly how I did it. I changed my diet. I ate a little bit healthier. I know how hard that can be with so much convenient fast food restaurants, convenient grab and go foods that you can just pick up and go. But I want to show y'all a way where y'all can stay convenient and eat a bit healthier. That's why I want to tell y'all about my good friends at Primitive Eats. It's a local, homegrown, small business that is a meal prep company. And they are derived off the paleo diet. Really quickly, paleo is just a natural way of eating food, taking out simple carbs, sticking to the earth. Okay. It is very good for you. It's very healthy for you, and you can support a local small business. It's always great. So if you're in the Los Fresnos, Brownsville, or Harlingen, San Benito area, go check them out. They have plans where you can buy for the full week. They will deliver it for you, quick, easy, and go, and it's super delicious. They support the podcast. I support them. Go check them out. And if you don't want to get their meal plan, listen, check out their Instagram. That is Primitive Eats 90. I'm going to leave it in the description. If you're not going to follow them for the meal preps, follow them for their memes because their memes are hilarious. Also, little quick fun fact, they do raffles, which I recently won concert tickets on their page. True story. Go check them out. I support Primitive Eats. Primitive Eats supports the podcast, and we love them. Go check them out. I guess that's the best way to segue this. You talked about also your work life and then your personal social life, and you're basically explaining how your work life consumes you, but that's kind of like by choice, right?
Oh yeah, I it sounds so weird to say it, but like I don't have a personal life. Um, Bear is my life, and maybe that sounds weird, and maybe I should have balance, but I've never really been a balanced person. I'm really grateful that I'm in a position in which most of my really close friends are my coaches that work under me. And then our other head coach is actually my wife, um, which was didn't happen that way on purpose. We were teammates. Um, that's another story. Uh, long story short, we were teammates, and I was dating someone else, and ended up ending it. And then she was just, her name's Nicole. She was always like just super ride or die, right? Like, and there was one time we went to a training camp in Colorado with our club, and I drove up there and she flew, and she lived in Austin at the time. And me being the asshole I am, I was like, hey, don't fly back, just drive back with me so I don't have to drive by myself. And she was like, okay. It's like, and then, so anyway, so fast forward like 2 years, I was like, I'd broken up with the person I was with, and I'd been single for like 6 months, and we were sitting there, and she had moved from Austin. I'd given her, like, I pretty much one day was like, hey, quit your job, you're gonna coach for me. And she was like, okay.
Wow.
Like, just the most ride or die human ever. And we were sitting at my table, and I was like, hey, can I ask you a question? She was like, yeah. I'm like, do you have a thing for me? And she was like, oh my God. And I was like, it's okay. Like, you can just tell me. And she was like, I hate you. Yeah, how can you just ask me that? I don't know. So that was kind of it. And then we started dating, and it was like, this is a bad idea. And it was like, yeah, but I'm kind of into bad ideas, so it's kind of whatever.
Well, it
Um,
kind of isn't because she's in the business, right? She's one of your, so it's like
yeah, but it
you.
gets blurry. You
That's
never
true. I think
like.
that I think it's better than somebody trying to drag you away from what you love.
So that's what happened with my prior relationship. Is essentially my girlfriend was like, I feel like Bear, and I'm a super blunt person, and was like, I feel like Bear is more important than our relationship. And without thinking, I was like, well, it is. And she was like, and I was like, oh yeah, I probably wasn't supposed to say that. Um, that wasn't the answer that I was supposed to say. And I straight up told her, I was like, look, like, you're young, you just got your nursing license, like, you're cute, like, you should go do your thing. Um, it ain't gonna be with me. Like, you want someone, what you want is definitely out there, but it's not here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's good, right? And there I actually had this conversation recently. There's a certain amount of gray area that I believe is necessary for a lot of the success that I've had. And gray area leads to messiness, obviously, but it also leads to bonds and success that wouldn't happen if it was just black and white. And so like my coaches are some of my best friends. And so sometimes when they fuck up, it's hard for me to be like I want to be your friend, but I'm trying to be it's in I'm pretty good at setting boundaries and differentiating, but not everyone is. Like it's hard for me to sit down with one of my coaches who I'm really good friends with and I hang out with and I'm like, "Hey, you fucked up." And then they get mad and I'm like, no, remember I'm your boss. I'm your boss, right? Remember that? Um, so it's hard, but it's good at the same time.
I feel
But
you.
no, like I don't I don't know. Like I'm an athlete, I'm a business owner. I mean, I'm in school. Um, all I read about is weightlifting and like personal development. I don't know what else I would want to do with my life. Like I want to make a difference. I want to do something while I'm on this earth and I'm still at an age to where I can and I can be an athlete and I can still be active. And I don't know what else I would do. Like I don't drink. I don't like I mean I like music, but who doesn't, right? I'll go to
Yeah.
a concert, I guess. I don't know. A work-life balance I don't think exists for some people and I think that's okay. I don't think everyone needs balance. I think it's okay to completely divulge everything you are into something.
I 100% agree. I've talked about this before. And I want to tell you personally, like, don't feel guilty, don't feel shame. Because I know that's what probably a lot of people would tell you is you need balance. But what I find is that the people that are most successful, like the people that we look up to, they are obsessed and they
Oh yeah.
always talk about how they're obsessed. They don't have this work life balance. They're not balanced in the least, right? And I think that we're stuck right now in a society where we're constantly told that you need balance in your life. You need balance in your life, right? We're told from the school systems, we're told from our parents, work, our peers, right? Our partners. But what I have found just from like a perspective view is that the more balanced that you are, the more irrelevant that you get. It's like you become this perfect blend of society. So you're almost
Yeah.
like nobody even sees you. You go unnoticed.
Right. I've told people, man, I'm like, how many people autopilot through their life, right? They wake up, they go to work, they go home, they make dinner, they grab takeout, and it's just like wash, rinse, repeat, right? And I don't want that to be my life. Like,
Mm.
I don't know how often people will tell me, like, you need a vacation, you need to sleep, you need to this, you need to that. And I'm like, dude, I'm good. Like, I don't know. I I think there's so many things that people use as an escape from their life instead of just accepting that maybe they're not completely happy. Like, if you actually live a life that you really enjoy, you don't need a vacation. You don't need to drink. You don't need to do drugs. They're all just escapes. And so I'm like, I don't need a vacation. Like, I love my job. I love coaching. I love showing up to the gym every day. It's very rare, like never actually, for me to wake up and be like, I don't want to go to the gym. Like, it doesn't happen. So why do I need to get away from it? Like, I was just in Greece with Mario for a week and I was ready to come home. Like, don't get me wrong, Greece was amazing. And like we stayed at this crazy resort. But after a couple days, like I miss my people.
Yeah,
Like I'm like miss my life. And I don't think enough people feel that way about their lives.
I agree. 100% agree. I think that, no offense, you strike me as a very stubborn person, but in a good way, right? It's like you
Yeah, I
set,
do whatever I want, no matter what.
yeah,
It doesn't matter.
you set your mind to something, and you're gonna get it done regardless. And I think that that has a lot to do with your success.
Yeah, I joke around that I have a lot of like enablers in my life. Like, man, I'll get like I don't know, like we do a lot of apparel, right? And so I'll get on one of my soapboxes, I'll get an idea. Like, man, I don't know if you saw, we just came out with a shirt. It says seek discomfort across the front.
I bought it.
Fuck. That's amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was in Greece and I was having a conversation with Mario in the back room. And I literally told him, I was like, because he didn't feel ready. And I was like, dude, like sometimes you gotta be okay being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta like seek that discomfort. And I was like, oof, yeah, okay. You stick that in my head a little. And then I don't know if you're familiar with Cambro, Rocky.
Yes, yes, of course.
And
I'm wearing
he's one of
camera
my
right now.
really yeah, he's one of my boys, man. He's been a huge part of my success just with how much he lets me roll with my ideas.
Mm.
And I text him and I'm like, Rocky, listen, I want a shirt. I want a black shirt with gold writing, and I all I wanted to say on the chest is seek discomfort. And I just want a really cool like tattoo-esque bear design on the back. And he was like, all right, bet. And then he sent me the mock-ups and I was like, yeah, give me like 100. So we did the first run and we sold maybe like 20 pre-order on the website. And then we had the rest at the meet because we had a meet that Saturday and they were
Mm.
gone within 2 hours. And I was like,
Wow.
holy shit. So then we did another drop of them that I just got on Friday. And I actually ended up texting him 2 days ago and I was like, hey, I need more. Like this, I don't normally like doing that many drops of the same design because you end up sitting on stuff.
Hmm.
And we were out of mediums within like 3 hours. And I was like, we have camp this weekend and I don't even have shirts for those people.
Mm.
So I have a lot of people in my life who like allow me, I guess. Um, they enable me. I have
Yeah.
enablers.
I think they just
And I'll,
trust you.
yeah, man, I could, and I don't know, like I could probably make like a Bear Barbell Weenie Hut Junior t-shirt. Oh, 100 of them.
No, the shirt is sick. It looks nice, and I'm excited for it to come in. And Rocky's a pretty cool dude too. I did a CrossFit competition. I want to say 6 months ago. It was my
Uh-huh.
first ever CrossFit competition, and I met him, and he saw that I had my podcast shirt on. He's like, "Oh, you have a
Uh-huh.
podcast," and so we got to talking a little bit. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. It's just I'm not as well
Just
known as you. I know, but it's hard.
yeah.
It's hard to get a hold of him. Like I
Okay,
think,
so I will say what I've learned is creative people are hard to nail down.
yeah, I think
They're hard.
I think I was talking to somebody that was controlling his page because it seemed very like I don't know, like robotic. I guess like
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll bug him. I'll be like, Rocky, You got to do this.
Yes,
Now he's
100%.
in like the way he started Cambro is so cool. Rocky's just a down ass dude. Like when I first met him, I'm really big on supporting other people and other businesses because I'm big about relationships. Like you help me, I help you, or maybe I just help you, and who knows? Like I'm a big believer in karma. And he had some shirt, and I just bought a couple of his shirts and like a fanny pack, I think. And on the receipt of the order, he wrote something along the lines of how much he really enjoyed my coaching style and that he'd been kind of watching me coach and he like thanked me, right? The literal order form is on my fridge. I'm a really sentimental person.
Wow.
Um and that was kind of the beginning and then like 2 weeks later, he asked me if he could come by the gym and he drove up and brought like 30 t-shirts and just started handing them out. He was like, "Hey, is it okay if I give these to people?" I'm like, "Dude, yeah." And so he just started handing out Cambro shirts to our team. And that was it. Like he stays at my house. Like if I need anything, like he's an awesome guy. He's definitely one of the people that is very much in my circle.
100%. Yeah, he's a very generous person. He sponsors like different CrossFit. He actually has the SPI games, right?
Hmm.
Like that. That's pretty
Yeah, I'm
cool.
hoping last year we were in Albuquerque when he had the SPI games,
Mhm.
because that was for a national meet. So I told him, I'm like, can you not schedule it this year during a national meet? Because I have to be there.
Are you coming?
I don't know when it is. As
It's
long as it's not, um, so AO2 is in Canada in September. So as long as it's
mm,
not the same weekend, I'll be at the SPI games.
okay, cool. Because I want. I'm gonna try to get those days off because I want to compete in it. But I'm a newbie. I'm a little newbie to CrossFit.
That's okay.
I worked out like the typical Gold's Gym guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, whatever.
And then my friend was doing CrossFit and he invited me to his house one day. He has a garage gym and I fell in love and I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. And so I think I've been a year into it now
Okay, that's so good though. Where are you doing CrossFit at?
at his house.
Okay, right on. That's cool.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
yeah, but another question that I wanted to ask you, and I feel like this will have, I think people would usually have trouble with their ego doing this, but you were an athlete before and you were very focused on that. How did you go from athlete to coach? Was it difficult? Did it strike your ego? How did that look?
Um, I mean, I guess it's hard, but not really. So I still am an athlete, just not. I mean, when Bear first started, I was kind of in striking distance of AO finals, which is kind of a big deal in weightlifting. That's a very small percentage. I was like 10 kilos off, which is pretty close.
Mm,
Um, and it was a real goal. And I was like, all right, like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna snatch 95 or 75 and clean jerk 95. Like I had these numbers in my head. And I always say there's like kind of three things that an athlete's need. Like you need good technique, you need to be strong, and you need a good mental game. And one of them needs to be really, really good. And you can kind of work on the other two, but you can get by. My mental game has always been great. Like I can not be super prepared for something and I can kind of mentally get there and be okay. And that's something you can teach people, but it's very difficult.
oh, yes.
I can fix technique, I can make people strong, but being able to ingrain that mental strength, I guess, is different. So I knew I could never be like a high level athlete, but I thought I could go to AO finals and I thought I could be good. Um and I don't know where it started to shift. I still lift 5 days a week when I'm not traveling. Sometimes four, things get busier. I'm tired.
Hmm.
Um it's hard. It's hard, but it's not. I think for some coaches, it's like a hit to their ego, but like, man, if it meant I qualified for AO finals or someone else did, I would easily pass it to someone else. Like if there was somehow that ability to be like, I don't know, I'm not religious, but let's say God came down and he was like, "All right, B, you can go to AO finals or this person can." I'd be like, "Well, give it to them." Like, and I can make more of a difference as a coach than I ever could as an athlete. And so the hardest part for me, I think, is how much I tie like me being an athlete is the only thing I really do that's just for me, purely just for me. And even at the end of the day, it's really not because so much of me being an athlete makes me a better coach.
Mm.
figuring things out movement wise. Like there's often that like I'll figure something out on my own lifting and then I'll be helping someone. I'll be like, oh, remember what helped you? Yeah, tell them that. But when I travel overseas and stuff, I feel like sometimes I kind of lose touch of what it's like to be an athlete because most high level coaches don't lift anymore. I think in Greece, if I remember right, I was the only coach there who still competes.
Mm.
Um, and that's kind of weird and hard because sometimes, like most of them just work out for general fitness, and I actually don't really like training most of the time. Um, but I like being strong, and I learned when I was really pushing hard to try to qualify for finals when I first started Bear when it was a lot smaller. There are very few feelings in this world, especially as a female, that make you feel better than putting something really fucking heavy over your head,
Mm.
like really heavy. Um, Nothing feels like that. And I'm glad that I was able to like feel that as frequently as I could when I was kind of trying to be a serious athlete because I can like impress that on other people. Like, hey, when the weight gets to a certain point, like you just gotta kind of nut up. Like you just kind of gotta realize, like, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to do this. It's kind of like even the whole burn the ships thing, right? Like when I have athletes that are like, I'm gonna try it. I'm like, you're not gonna try shit. Like if you're gonna pull it off the ground, you're gonna put it on your chest and you're gonna stand up and you're gonna put it over your head. Like there's no other option. So it's hard. Like I still have a goal of going to AO finals. I don't know if it'll ever happen. My coach seems to think it will. Um, but the pure concept of having to take off like a week at a time makes it really hard.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you like get ahead and then because the way international comps work, it's usually like so I think I went to Cuba and then I was in Ohio and then I went to Cuba and then I was home for like 5, 6 weeks, and then I went to Greece. And now I'm in a good stretch. Like I've got 4 weeks from yesterday that I can just be an athlete. I mean, I have things I have to go do, but then I go to Mexico. So I'm like, all right, for the next 4 weeks, I'm gonna grind. Like I'm gonna really train, I'm gonna really whatever. But then you always get home from a week and a half off, and you're like 2 weeks behind where you were. So I think I've just accepted that like it's definitely slower and it's about more than just numbers on the bar for me. But being an athlete helps me be a better coach. I learn a lot about myself, which helps me with other people. And it's weird because I always did it for me. And the bigger we get and the more accomplished I become as a coach, the more that I have my athletes are like, it's amazing watching you lift. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like one of my really high level juniors, her name is Mallory, and she was like, I love the fact that you're an athlete. And I'm like, why? Like, why does that matter to you? And she's like, because nobody really is. Like, there are not really any high level coaches that even train on a regular basis. Like,
Mm.
they'll occasionally lift just to show that they still can, but there's something to be said for someone grinding every single day when they don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what it is.
I think your athletes or people admire you for doing that because it's very unique. We hear that cliche of coaches don't play, right? And
Yeah.
right. So I think what it is that they see that you're going through the struggle, you're going through the grind with them. It's kind of like you're in the forefront with them.
Yeah. And I don't it's hard for me to ever ask someone to do something I'm not willing to do. Like leading
Mm.
into the Arnold, I competed in March, and I didn't have an optimal training schedule leading up to it. I actually thought about pulling out a couple weeks before
Mm.
because I was like I'm not ready, and I was like I can't do that. Like how can I do that? Because in 6 months, if one of my athletes is going up to another meet and they're like, hey, I'm not ready, I'm gonna pull out, how can I tell them no, they can't do that if I did it?
Mm.
So I told myself, well, like, no matter what, my technique's what it is and my strength is what it is. So the only thing that can be a game changer for me in that back room is my brain. So, like, I just told myself, like, all right, concentrate on your movement, your self cueing, and just focus on lifting and nothing else. And that was the best thing I've ever had. I PR'd both my lifts. I went 6 for 6. I have a really good coach in my corner, so that helps. Um, but like And that's the thing, like, and it worked, right? Because now I can tell someone who's like, I don't feel ready. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. Like, if we can fix your brain walking into that back room, you will do things you didn't know you could do. And I can back it. It's not just like I'm talking out my ass.
Yeah.
And so many coaches, I think, also set really unrealistic goals for their athletes. Like, they'll have people that are like, well, I want to go to the Olympics. And it's like, okay, well, let's do these first. And that's even with
Mm.
Mario, we've set like, okay, we need to get here, and then we need to get here, and then we need to get here. But so many coaches like almost like blow smoke up their athletes' asses, where it's like, yeah, yeah, of course, you can make Team USA, you can whatever, but they don't tell them what they have to do to make it happen.
Mm.
And I know, like, I can pull up the exact number that I'm like, all right, like one of my youths just crushed a huge meet this past weekend. And I was like, all right, we need a 200 total as soon as possible to start making junior teams. And it's easier than just being like, yeah, we can do all these things, but are you actually going to help them get there, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah. 100%. Hey guys, I want to tell you all about my good friends at Meta Training. As you all know, I am a huge fitness fanatic, but there has been one critical element that has been missing from my fitness journey. It is commonly overlooked and extremely underrated, and that is programming. Listen, if you're just starting off, I understand that it can be very hard, and we do want to go on YouTube. We want to check out all these influencers, but listen, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that is exactly why you need a program. And that's exactly what Meta Training does. They provide a program depending on your goals, whether it's to build strength, gain muscle, whether it's to lose body fat, to increase endurance. Meta Training has multiple trainers to target whichever part of your fitness journey that you want to attack. Also, they have some great apparel. They hooked me up with this. I think it's called like the oversized tee, right? So it's like it's kind of like a pump cover. So they hit me up and they met me up at the gym and they're like, listen, we want you to represent. So that proves to me that Meta Training supports the podcast. Therefore, the podcast supports Meta Training. You can find them on Instagram and their handle is training.meta, and they also have a website. So if you can't necessarily get their program, I do recommend checking them out on Instagram and maybe buying some of their apparel. It is slick, it's clean, and I'm telling you, I'm going to wear it on my next gym sesh. So thank you all. Go check out Training Meta Training. Thank you. Bye-bye. It seems to me like the weight, when you were talking about having the heavy weight over your head, it's not just about weight. It weighs a lot more than just it being a piece of steel. That's what it seems to me like with you and your athletes, that it means way more than just that.
It's I don't know, it's something that that money can't buy. Like it can't buy feelings, and that feeling, or like going to a meet and having one of your athletes like just obliterate everyone else, right? And it's not even about like the I joke around and say it's like a flex, right? We show up to a local meet and like flex on people. But like it's about people seeing how hard they work. And it's not about the status. It's about being like, yeah, we grind harder than anybody else. Yes.
Mm.
You have to have a perfect storm to be a high level athlete. You have to have a support system. You have to have a good coach. You have to have work ethic. And I try to help people find that. And so yeah, when we go to meets, you're damn right we're gonna flex on people.
Mm.
Of course we are, because we have a team, we have the support system. Like, man, our team training sessions are unreal. Like everyone's so supportive. It doesn't matter if you're snatching 25 kilos or 150 kilos. Everyone cheers the same. They're still like, when people first join, I'm like, I don't do drama. I don't do clicks. I don't do bullshit. Like if you're here to be a better person, and that's it.
Mm.
Um, and so I don't know, it's more, it's a feeling, and what's cool to me is people will drop in to Bear. They're just here from out of town, and I've had multiple people pull me aside and they're like, "You have something really special." And I'm like, "Yeah, you picked that up in an hour, huh?" And they're like, "Yes." And I'm like, "That's what's cool for me, is having people come in and being able to walk into four walls and be like, 'Whoa.'" Like this is different than anywhere else I've ever been.
100%. That's what I said earlier. Is like you can just tell. You can just tell that you have that passion in you. And I guess where I'm trying to figure out, and this is a question for you, is that who met, who's a mentor, who has been mentors to you?
Oh, man. I never really had a support system growing up. Um, like my parents were super young when they had me, so I kind of bounced around. I haven't really had anybody, and that sounds so weird to say, and maybe it's a little whatever, but like so Camargo is my mentor, but the like I would say like the bigger Bear has gotten and stuff, I always kind of like looked up to him a lot. And he definitely is a mentor, but the more successful I've become, the more in a weird way we've kind of become peers. Like
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk just about things and I still like bounce things off of him. Like I had him in the back. So Lane is one of my really good 89s. In his first national meet, I was so nervous. Because the thing about like Mario is I've had him since he was a kid. Like I know that kid in and out. Like I can look at him and know if something's off. But with Lane, I had this really high level athlete walk into my gym and I was like, okay, well he's already good and I have to make him better. That's a lot different than getting someone really young
Mm-hmm.
and growing them over the years. And I was like, hey, his nickname is like profe, right? It means like professor.
Okay.
And I was like, profe, like, can you be in the back with me? And he was like, sure. And he just stood back there because I didn't actually need him, but I wanted him back there.
Mm.
And I would say like him, but really he actually listened to the last podcast I did, and he started working with me in January of last year. And he didn't realize how quick Bear had grown. He thought I'd already been doing it for a couple years. And he listened to the podcast and he was like, I didn't realize when we started working together, you hadn't even been running Bear for a year. I was like, no. And he was like, how in the fuck did you get so successful so fast?
Yeah.
But I don't, maybe that sounds weird to say, but I haven't really had anybody. Like, I think the pure image of what I needed made me become that for other people. I've had a lot of influences. I don't have an ego. I'm really humble about asking for help. I'll reach out to anybody that'll help. Like when I go on these trips, Kara Heads, Travis Mash, Kevin Simons, like those are all coaches, Mike Catone, that I've picked their brain, right? To an annoying amount.
Mm.
To where like Mike Catone and I were walking down the streets of Havana, Cuba, and it was super loud, and I'm asking him questions about like how to build leg strength. Um, I don't have all the answers, and I never will, and that's okay. I read all the time. I'm always trying to become better. I just try to find as many sources as possible to educate myself.
I like that.
And like I think for me, like I mentor a lot of people, like about all kinds of stuff, like a lot of business stuff and I think for most people they'll reach out to me and they'll be like, like what is your key to success? Like how do I grow? And they're like a struggling coach. And it's never the answer they want to hear. And I'm like, look, man, you just got to give a shit. You got to really, actually, genuinely care about other humans. And if you don't have that, and that's okay if you don't, you're asking the wrong person for advice. Like, I don't have any business formulas. I don't have any like investment advice. Like, it's just like, don't have work-life balance, only care about your people, forget to eat food every day because you're so into what you're trying to figure out. Like, there's like a running joke when I'm coaching at meets. People will come up to me and be like, B, you need to eat. And I'll be like, leave me alone. And they're like, no, 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 like, you have to eat. And I always joke, like, I'm fueled by success. Like, I'm being an asshole. Um, but I'm like, no, like I don't need food, I'll eat later. And they're like, oh, you need to eat. And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
Um,
You're
like I
just
don't
so
know. That's
focused.
yeah, I'm just like I hyperfixate hard
Hmm.
when I'm coaching in the back. Um, but yeah, I'm like, no, like just I'm good. I'll eat later. Like go away.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I want to go back to where you said you really didn't have anybody growing up. I have found that, well, people take it two ways, and I call it the hero villain dichotomy.
Hmm.
Because what we see is that someone can take it one or two ways. They can fall into victimhood and feel woe about themselves, or they can take like the situation and the lack of support and say like, oh, I want to become better, right? I think I found myself in early in my childhood too. My father worked out of town, my parents were divorced, and I had to seek like a father figure. And so I would literally go online and search into history and look at very noble, respected men, and I'll be like, man, like that's like, I want to be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I love my father. I'm not bashing him, like,
yeah,
right.
yeah, no, I get it.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, I seeked to be a better person one way or another. I think that people, like I said, take it one or two ways.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that. One of the hardest parts of my life, and this sounds really weird to say, is when I have an athlete that does something that's really big, or I find myself at another level of being successful. So one of my youth athletes unofficially broke an American record this past weekend. So one of my girls, Anna, clean and jerked 108 kilos, which for those of you that are CrossFitters, it's like just under 240 pounds. And she weighs like 143, I think, like 140, right? She's 17, just turned 17.
Shoot.
And like I was so overwhelmed with emotion. I honestly hate it. Like I cry so much at meets. Not like bawling, but like my eyes well up and I'm like, God, you're so soft. Like stop. But anyway, as I was driving home that night, sometimes I wish I had a specific person that I could be like, hey, look what I did, be proud of me. And I don't. And that's probably kind of the weird, hardest part that I'm struggling in my life right now, to where I don't have that specific father, mother figure. Um, and I think I always kind of like wanted that growing up. Like I've spent so much of my life trying to make my parents proud of me, and I never could. Um, and as I've gotten older, I think I'm finding myself searching for that again, to where I'm like, hey, like look, like sometimes I like so Camargo was coaching all weekend at States, and I was like, hey, I know you're super busy. I just want 30 seconds of your time. Look what my kid did. Like, look. Um, and I don't know. That's a hard thing for me, as I feel like I'm like seeking that affirmation, but I don't exactly know who I want it from. I don't know. I don't remember what your question was, but
That's
your
no,
what did what's your question?
that was deep though. I like that. I like where you went with that. No,
But it,
it wasn't really a question. I was just kind of talking about the dichotomy of how people
oh
take it.
yes.
Yeah.
So I definitely would say what I've learned is you don't get anywhere by being a victim. You just don't. And the thing is, no one else is responsible for your success or your failure. Um, so you can sit around and wallow in your own bullshit, for lack of better words, or you can just do something about it. And so I've become a very solution-oriented person. If there's a problem, I'm going to fix it. And if I can't fix it, then what's the point of even worrying about it? And when you have that mindset, it makes it a lot easier to just go through life. You're like, well, this is broken. Let's say you break something, right? Can I buy another one? No. Can I fix it? No. We'll throw it away. What's the point of losing sleep over it if I can't do anything about it? And at the end of the day, we all need someone to look up to. We all need someone who's an actual selfless, caring leader and person who genuinely gives a shit. And I think unintentionally that's what I've tried to become for other people, because I never had that. Like when sometimes I'm super stressed and I have a lot going on, like my phone sits between 30 to 60 unread text messages at a time. And I clean it out every night. Like every night I'll go through, and sometimes I'll have athletes text me because they're super happy, right? They just passed an exam, they just hit a PR, or they bought a new car or whatever. And sometimes I'm really busy, and in my head, I want to like blow it off, right? I want to be like, oh, I'm in the middle of something, I'm not going to reply to you right now. And then I put myself in their shoes and I think, how would I feel if I just bought a car, just passed an exam, and I text that person that I looked up to and they didn't reply? Sure, it would be okay, but how much more would it mean to me if they did reply? So I'll take the time to be like, dude, yeah, crushed it, awesome. And I genuinely mean it. But sometimes I think it's important to put yourself in other people's shoes and how they're reaching out to you because they want validation. They want to feel a certain way and they want you to help them feel that way. And I remember when I quit my job at that original CrossFit gym that I coached at, I cried. And I don't remember the last time I cried from like emotions other than happiness. And I was so upset. And I remember telling my friend, like, I'm never going to coach again. Like, I'm never going to have people to help. And now sometimes I feel overwhelmed. Like, man, we just broke 245 athletes like over that line. And sometimes I'm like, God, this is so much. And then I'm like, do you remember when this is all you wanted? Like, I read a quote one time and it was like, I can't get mad about having a lot on my plate when all I wanted to do was eat. And it's like,
Mm.
you wanted this. And then sometimes I'll tell myself, like, you wanted this life. Like, you wanted to coach. You wanted to make a difference. So who are you to get upset about it? Like, you put yourself in this position because you wanted it. So, like, shut up, get over yourself, and do it.
I like that a lot. That's good stuff. So how can you manage to get so personal with your athletes when you have 245?
Well, okay, so it's still a lot. I'm primary. Okay, so each athlete has a primary coach, and that's their person who writes their programming, um, is their like main point of contact, but we all coach everybody. Out of the 245, I'm primary on 134, which is
Shoot.
still a lot.
Yeah, it's
Um, it's a lot. Um, I
and
just get
is
to
it
know.
based off of like a template? Like okay,
Mm,
we're all going to be training based off of this.
no. So, okay, so you have opposite ends of the spectrum as far as athletes. So you have your high level athletes that need something super specific, and then you have maybe your beginners or people going through injuries. Both of those ends have something totally personalized just for
Mm.
them. And then normally your intermediate level athletes, which like I would be considered an intermediate level athlete, like personally, I spend a lot of time writing really good cycles and then I put people onto those based off of their needs and then I'll go in and tweak them based off of weaknesses, injuries, like whatever.
Mm.
But no, I mean I spend many hours programming every week. But I just get to know people. Like when I first meet people, at the end of like we all just want someone to give a fuck about us. Like
Yeah.
we want someone who when we walk into the gym goes, "Hey, how was your day?" And they actually care. It's not like when you leave Target and it's like, "Oh, how was your day?" and you're just expected to say it was good. Like I don't remember where I was. It was like maybe 10 years ago and I was somewhere and I worked somewhere. I think it was in a college when I worked at Journeys. And I asked someone, I was like, "How's your day?" And they looked at me and they go, "You know what? It kind of sucks." And that's not the answer you're supposed to give, right? And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I appreciate you being honest because so many of us are just like programmed to be like, yeah, I was fine. And I don't want that. Like, I don't want that relationship with my athletes. And
Mhm.
so, like, I'm super observant. I pay a lot of attention. Like, if someone seems off, whatever, I'm like, hey, what's up? Um, but like, learning who they are, like their significant other's name, if they have dogs, what their job is, how long they've been lifting, all my high level athletes, why they lift. Like, why? Because I'll be honest, those couple words you to say to someone before they walk up to the platform can make or break a lot of things.
Mm.
And it can literally be that little thing that like ingrains right in their brain on those couple seconds when they walk out there. One of my boys, he actually lives in the valley. His name's Angel. And before he walked out, I looked him in the face and I said, I need you to go be a leader. And like he told me he was like that just drilled itself into my brain. And I was like, good. Like that's my job as the coach is to find whatever words, whatever like pushes that button, maybe digs a little under the ribs, whatever,
Mhm.
and makes you perform. And so understanding that your athletes are humans first. Like if they train 2 hours a day, there's still 22 hours that are human. And in my opinion, it's more important to understand them as a human than it is an athlete because if you understand who they are as a human, it will help you understand them as an athlete. The other way around doesn't work.
Mm.
So I don't know, man. I spend my days getting to know people,
That's
talking
good.
about other people.
And I know for a fact that you're very quick to respond because I didn't even tell you this, but I actually worked out I didn't buy your program, but my
Mhm.
friend did. So I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I forgot to even mention his name. Carlos Ruiz is my
Yeah, yeah,
friend.
yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay, yeah. I
yeah.
coached him for a while.
Yeah. So I started. He's the one that got me into CrossFit, and we just started doing. I was like, "How do you? Where are you getting all these workouts? Do you just make them up on yourself?" He's like, "No." And then that's how I was introduced to you. And so
Okay,
I saw you on
awesome.
Instagram and whatnot. But yeah, what shocked me the most is like he would text you and you would like almost immediately
Yeah.
respond. Oh, we got some thunder over here.
Oh man. Yeah, because that shit matters and like I don't know, it's important. It's important to be responsive. I was actually in Mexico and one of my athletes, actually she lives in the valley too. Her name's Claire. She was visiting San Antonio and she went by my house because she needed to grab something. And she had texted Nicole and asked for like our lockbox code, but Nicole hadn't responded. And so Claire texted me. I was in Mexico at a training camp with the girls, and I responded within a couple minutes, and she was like, "How did I know you were going to respond that?" But like it's important to be accessible, especially when I have so many remote athletes.
Hmm.
My job as a remote athlete is to be a better coach than they can find in person. And if they can find someone better in person, I always support it. But I am very confident in my coaching abilities, and but part of that is being responsive and being available. There's times that I'm busy, like obviously, like right now I haven't looked at my phone in like an hour, and that's okay. And that took me some time to be okay to be able to set stuff aside. But on a regular basis, like if somebody needs something, I'm usually pretty quick to respond. It's important. It's like when new athletes reach out, I usually probably get back to them within 10 to 15 minutes, and it shows that you care.
Yeah.
It shows that you like actually care because at the end of the day, like Carlos, right? First of all, he was terrible at snatching when I started working with him.
No,
I
he's
hope
still
he's still.
terrible at snatching.
Oh fuck. We made a lot of progress.
Oh no, yeah,
Um,
definitely. He was like a
so
board before.
God, he was so stiff. It was I remember watching him and I was like, oh um it's it shows that you care, and like I really firmly feel like that's all we want, man. Like as humans, like we just want someone who literally cares about us. And
Hmm.
if someone reaches out to you and you get back to them quickly, that's actually something my old business partner and I would argue about. She would be like, "No, you should wait 24 hours to respond to people." And I was like, "Why?" No. Like if you like when we get off this podcast, if I have an email from someone who's like, "Hey, I'm interested, blah blah blah," I will text them immediately because it's literally like, hey, I would love to provide services for you.
Hmm.
Like, that's important.
Not I don't know who your ex business partner is, but it sounds like they're trying to stay on top of the hierarchy. Like they're
Yeah, and
trying to play
it's
mental
funny you say
warfare.
that. That's highly accurate. We definitely had very different upbringings. I grew up super middle class. Like my first car had a Allen wrench as a gear shifter, and the windows didn't roll up and down. Yeah. Um, and if I remember right, her first car was a Jaguar. So that probably tells you everything you need to know. And
Yeah.
I love that, man. It was a Pontiac Grand Am. It was older than I was, and I I think I bought that car for $800 and I sold it for like $600 like 4 years later.
Wow.
There are definitely some things that like I feel like are important, but there's so much like even when like a couple months ago I was talking to my accountant and she was like, like if you want, you could raise your salary, you could pay yourself more. And I was like, I don't know what I would do with it, pay taxes on it. Like, and so I don't know. And that was a big disconnect with us at the other business is she wanted to make as much money as possible. And I'm like,
Hmm.
you gotta pay like you have to pay taxes on this stuff, if you make more and like what do you want to do with it? Like there's a research study I read and it said that in the average household, money doesn't buy happiness past $75,000 a year, like per
Hmm.
person. And anywhere past that you don't. Like don't get me wrong, like you know what? I don't know. I don't even think I have a used Subaru Outback that I love and I take care of, and like I maybe wish my house was a little bigger, but only so I could have more people stay here, not because I actually want a bigger
Yeah.
house. Um, I don't know. Like there's a lot more in life than money and hierarchy and like I don't know. It's all stupid, man. At the end of the day, we're all people, right? Like we all breathe, we all eat, we all sleep. Like nobody gives a fuck what car you drive. Like people care if you're a good person.
Hmm.
And that was just a huge disconnect to where I'm like, who cares? Like, I don't know. I'd rather associate with good people than rich people who are assholes.
100%. This is the last thing I'll say about it because I don't want to like bash somebody on the
No,
show,
yeah,
but
it's fine. I always really, because the people who are close to me actually know this person and know how ugly it was. And like, man, I was messed up mentally for a long time. But I always, when I do these podcasts, I'm careful.
oh yeah, yeah, you don't want to bash
I'm
somebody
just,
too
I'm never
hard.
gonna bash someone else to make myself look good. It's stupid.
Yeah. But I wonder how she feels in hindsight, and maybe it's changed her. Maybe it's just increased anger seeing you blow up as this successful international coach. It's probably
I'm
got to hurt.
sure. I don't know. There's like a small slight on that club that's still going, their website about how they've developed and mentored people to coach internationally, and it makes me mad because I'm like, you didn't develop me. Like,
Oh,
don't
how
don't
narcissistic, huh?
right? Like, don't write off what I'm doing as your own success. Um, that being said, like if she had a flat tire and called me, like I'd go pick her up, which is really crazy to say because she essentially tried to ruin my life for many years. Um, I don't know, like I still wish we could like go get coffee and have a conversation like normal people. I definitely know it's not in the cards. I know it'll never happen. But I don't have any bad blood. I mean, there's been a lot of people who've spoken poorly about me, and it used to bug me. It used to really eat at me to where people that I never did anything to, or people that I only tried to help or I only was cordial to, speak bad about me. Because here's the thing, right? Like, it always gets back. Like, you always hear when people talk bad about you. And it used to really bug me. Actually, we have an athlete who just joined Bear, and the only way she even knew about it was because her old coach talked shit about us and was like,
Mm.
don't go there, like this and this, and blah, blah, blah. And then that coach ended up sucking, right? And then she was like, well, if you suck and you said they suck, I'm going to go there because they probably don't.
Right, yeah.
And so it blew up because the only way she even knew who we were was because he talked bad. But it used to bother me. It used to like be like, why would people who don't even know me say all these things about me that aren't even close to true? Like, dude, if I spit in your face, like if I tell you you're a whatever, like I get it. You can say whatever you want about me, but if you're gonna talk bad, at least let it be true.
Yeah.
Like,
But there's no such thing as bad propaganda, huh? So that's
yeah, I
proof right there.
guess. I still
and
don't like it.
and then that goes to like the law of abundance, right? If you treat people great, I mean, it's gonna come back one way or another. If you treat people like crap, well, even
And
if you
that's,
talk crap.
man, even when people quit, like we had an athlete quit over something really dumb. And I straight up was like, I wish you the best. I hope you're doing well. And then she like went to social media and like called me a narcissist, which is like hilarious. And a bunch of other stuff. And I called her and I'm like, hey. And she was like, what? Like, answered the phone. And I'm like, hey, like, thought we were, and I guess most people in our society don't do this, right? Like, someone talks shit about them on social media, they don't just call them. And I'm like, hey, I thought we were good. And she was like, well, I can say whatever I want on social media. I'm like, no, 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 you can't. You're correct. But life is too short to be angry for no reason. And I didn't give you a legitimate reason to feel the way you feel. So I'm trying to unpack this because I don't want you to be angry just to be angry. Like, if this is something we can solve, we should. And then she just kept going. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry. You just want to be mad. And if you just want to be mad, that's on you. But that's not how I choose to live my life. So understand, I only wish you the best. And I genuinely mean that. I hope you find what you're looking for. I apologize for anything that we caused that might have caused issues. If you ever need anything in the future, let me know. And I genuinely mean that.
That probably
But
pissed her
people,
off a little bit more.
right? And the thing is, I wasn't even trying to. It was just like, hey, like, you ain't gotta be angry. And I think too many people live their life angry and then they wake up and they're 60 and they're like, wow, I was just mad for 40 years for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. People, man.
Okay, I want to get into these questions. I put
Okay.
up a poll, a
Yeah.
Q&A poll on Instagram where people ask questions. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to attack them one by one. And there's probably like 9 of them, so
Oh
I
yeah,
guess we'll try to do it like as brief as possible. Because
that's fine.
I think that we can probably go on a tangent on every single one or
Oh
most
yeah,
of them.
100%. I can talk.
Okay, so the first one's going to be, what do you consider to be your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
You know what? I don't this maybe this sounds dumb. I don't feel like I've really failed at anything. I've learned. And
Yeah.
I think if you've learned, it wasn't a failure.
Mm.
Um I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have. And maybe that's narcissistic, right? Maybe that's whatever, but I don't know. I've learned from anything I've ever done. Like when I first started Bear, I didn't know how to be a boss. I never signed up to be a boss. I never signed up to sign people's paychecks, to like tell them to do things. And like I would say I maybe failed a couple times at being a boss. But I also learned from being a boss and I learned how to be better. So I don't think I actually failed. I think I just learned because if I never would have failed, I never would have become better.
100%. I don't think that's a narcissistic mentality. I think that's a winning mentality. I think that's away from victimhood. I think that's what that is. Um, Biggest learning curve, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. I would definitely say that being a boss is hard. Building coaches is 100 times harder than building athletes.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's rough.
Because they have to cultivate that culture that you're
Yeah.
trying to provide. And
Like you want them to do well and like I know that I've kind of figured things out, but I don't want them to be carbon copies of me. Like I want them
mm,
to be themselves, but it's hard because I'm like, no, like just do this. Like I did this and it went really well. And so you have to like guide them without really telling them what to do. It's like, I don't know, it's hard. But I'm figuring it out little by little. I still fuck up, but
you you've only been doing this for how many? 2 years?
yeah, barely. Yeah.
And so you're doing great and you're very
Thanks.
young in your journey, so I think that you're going to be doing way better and as the years go on. So this one I usually don't name the names, but
Okay.
considering the question, I will name. Anna
All right.
Sierra says, "Hey B, what's it like to be the coolest coach ever?"
Oh my God, this little kid. Uh, so Anna actually is she's the kid who clean and jerked 108 kilos this last
Mm.
weekend. Um, I don't know, it goes, she's one of those athletes that I have a really tight relationship with. I mean, I'd go fucking walk in traffic for that kid. She's a good one, man. So it's there's some mutual appreciation there for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Shout out Anna. What advice, this is a good one. What advice would you give someone that is stuck in the coaching process, both financially and mentally?
Okay. Honestly, whoever this is, you can reach out. I'm always here to talk to people, help people. Usually I can kind of talk with a coach and kind of help them through. Um, the biggest advice I can give anyone who's worried about the financial part, as weird as this sounds, is to stop worrying about the financial part.
Mm,
If you genuinely only focus on what you're doing, providing the best service and the best product possible, money comes. But if
mm,
you just worry about making money, you'll never make money.
mm. I
You'll
like
never
that.
make money. So, and that's for any coaches, anybody. If you like, man, I have 30-hour long phone calls all the time with coaches. I'm actually going to school. I'm finishing up my degree in business analytics so I can get more into consulting later on, just to help people. Because I can help people with like the advice aspect, but I want to be able to help people more with the back end aspect of it. Like, I mean, marketing is weird. I kind of took a marketing class. I'm really good at bullshit in college. Um, I actually had this conversation with one of my friends. I'm like, dude, I just finished my junior year and I don't know anything. Like, I'm like, I'm just really good at bullshitting everything.
100%.
That being
I'm
said,
the
I've learned
same
some
way.
stuff along the way. But I'm always here, man. Anybody can reach out. I'm always here just to have a phone call with someone. I had someone just want to rant to me about something one time, and I'm like, all right, whatever, that's fine. So
Um,
yeah, I would say just reach out or find a mentor. Mentors are really important.
100%. I agree with that. So reach out through Instagram to her. Next question is, what is your 10-year goal?
Oh, God, I hate this question. I don't have one. And that sounds dumb. I don't have a 1 year goal. I don't have a 5 year goal. I think if you're, I think if you really focus only on what you're doing day to day, you get way farther than setting a 5 year or 10 year goal.
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know. The thing is, my success is heavily dependent on other people. Every single person that I coach could quit right now.
mm,
And guess what? I'm completely irrelevant at that point. And I think that's probably the biggest thing coaches forget, that you are irrelevant without your athletes.
yeah.
So, because my success is tied upon other people, my goals don't really matter.
Mm,
Like, I'm just here to help them reach their goals. Do I want to coach at the 2028 Olympics? Yeah, for fucking sure. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. It really depends on everyone else, and it depends on the relationships and the bonds that I build with them, and what happens. I don't have one. My goal is to be a better person and more knowledgeable every day than the day before.
mm.
That's it. That's
That's
my only goal.
that's good. I think only a certain amount of people can get away with taking it day by day. It's usually people that are able to react in a very quick but an effective way to situations. I know some people that process takes a lot longer for them, so they I don't think that will work out, but I think it does work for you. I think it'll work.
Yeah, I think from being a paramedic for so long, I'm really good on my feet. Like you could literally grab me out of this room and put me in a back room in an international meet, and I could figure it out.
Mm,
Like I'm really good. Just like, and I don't really get. I mean, I get nervous. I get like nauseatingly nervous when I
mm,
coach, but I don't show it. And I think it's because as a paramedic, I had to be so calm and cool and collected under like literal chaos, that a back room is super chill when you've dealt with like people being shot and crazy stuff.
yeah, that's a great asset to have as a leader. Like be quick on your feet, quick on decisions, being able to be thrown in the fire and figure things out. We kind of touched on this one. Um, Maybe you can sum it up, or maybe we can just skip it. It's up to you. How hard slash seamless was the transition from athlete to coach? And I think we kind of.
It just happened organically. I think at some point I just realized when I was really pushing hard, I was training 20, 24 hours a week. I was doing double days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, long days, Tuesday, Saturday. At a certain point, coaching just became more important, and double days became single days, and then I would have to start taking a week off. And when you have to take a week off at a time, you realize that your goals have to shift. Otherwise, like I can't be at a certain number and a certain percentage, leave for a week, come home and expect to be where I was. Like that's just
Mm,
dumb. It happened organically. I don't think I've ever actually made. I read a lot about sociology and like just the human brain, and 99% of the decisions we make are subconscious. And I don't think anything with Bear, other than maybe branding and naming it, was a conscious decision. Everything else was kind of just going with my gut, um, and just doing whatever I decided to do. Like if it was, I don't know, like it was never a conscious thought. It just kind of happened. And then I realized like I can do way more as a coach. As much as I enjoy being an athlete, um, I enjoy helping people succeed more.
100%. I like that 99% is subconscious because we tend to act before we think, or we do things that are just natural without even
Yeah.
thinking about majority of the time of the day.
But people don't think about it. I always tell people like snatching should be like walking, and that sounds
Mm,
weird, but it's like how many times do you get in your car, you turn it on, you put on Spotify, and you start driving to the gym, and you realize you didn't consciously think about any single thing you did. And that's how lifting should be. And that's I could go on an hour long tangent
yeah,
about that, but like it should be like natural.
yeah, I hear you. To improve Olympic lifts, should I work on accessory work or practice barbell complex?
Uh, Neither. To get better at weightlifting, you need to do weightlifting. Um,
I tell
you
that
need to
to
find a
everybody. Everybody's
yeah,
trying to find like some
everybody wants
crazy
it.
taboo things. Like, how do I get better at running?
Yeah, run.
Run.
You just run. Well, that being said, this kind of goes back to what I said before. You need to be moving correctly. And the only way to move correctly is to have a coach. So I would say find a coach that knows what they're doing. Unfortunately, there's not many of those that really understand how to coach snatch and clean and jerk. I would say find someone who knows how to fix movement. And then you also need to realize it's a long-term thing. You can get coaching for a month or 2 months and then go back and do your own thing and re-pick up all those bad habits.
Mm,
So I would say surrounding yourself with a coach, or having a coach that knows what they're doing is the number one way to get better. And then committing to the craft and learning it and doing it is the best way. Accessories are not going to make you better at snatching. Complexes, if you're moving incorrectly, won't make you better.
mm.
So correct movement is really the only way to get better at the movements.
That's good. I like that. Now, this one was a weird one. I'm not going to mention the name just
Oh,
because
God.
I don't know if you want to know the person, but maybe I'll tell you after that
All
when we're
right.
off air. In an alternate universe, how long would we date until we tie the knot? I don't know.
Oh my God, that's so weird. Unfortunately, I'm married, and I'm also married to a Hispanic female from the Valley, so it's probably not someone who wants to mess with her.
Which is why I'm not going to say the name
Yeah, it's probably a good
on
idea. You
air.
can tell me off the air.
Yeah. The person's following you. I think you're following them, so it might be a joke. I'm pretty sure it's
It's
just
probably a joke. It's probably one of my athletes being an idiot.
yeah, probably.
Probably so.
Well, that's all we have for the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
No, not really. I mean, I don't know. I love all you Valley people. I don't know. I literally, when I started coaching the Marquez kids, it's crazy how much, I guess, traction, I guess, I've picked up in the Valley. And if there's anything I've realized, like growing up as a kid in the Midwest, people from the Valley are so like supportive and welcoming. It's so cool.
Mm,
It's just different, man. Like people in the valley are built different. Like if I didn't have bear and it wasn't down here and the valley wasn't so isolated and I wasn't so white, I would definitely live down there. I don't know. Every single person, like man, my coach in Edinburgh, Aliber, he's one of the most ride or die humans I've ever met in my life. And every single person he coaches, even though I don't coach them directly, I still have this really cool bond with them. So I don't know. I'm super appreciative of like everyone I coach, but I'm very appreciative of the amount of support that I get in the valley.
yeah. Well, you're well known in the weightlifting and CrossFit community down here. Your name is thrown around here and there, so feel good about that because that's
Yeah, it's weird, but it's cool. It's I don't know. One of my so Lifetime is like a really big gym up here. Or I wouldn't even call it a gym. It's like a Globo gym, but it's like a spa resort, whatever. And there's I think 11 personal trainers and Bear Barbell coaches 6 of them.
mm.
And so one of my boys, one of my athletes, had an interview at Lifetime yesterday. And he goes, Patrick, I guess, whoever he is, the GM or whatever, he was like, Patrick said he's sick of hearing about you. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, it's good things. And then in quotations, he put God's gift to earth. And I was like, oh my God. Like, but I don't know. It's cool. I mean, it's weird and I kind of don't like it. Like, I'm not really big on attention. I obviously like being able to talk and like make a difference and like, inspire people. But anytime we have like a gym gathering or something like that, someone's like, make a speech. I'm like, no, don't, don't, don't make me. Like, I hate it. I hate it.
Because you can probably do it without even thinking about it, right? But when it's like,
Oh yeah,
okay, she's gonna make a
I just
speech.
whoa, no, I hate it. I hate attention. Like I don't know. I don't know. I like being able to make a difference, but I don't like the whole eyes on you thing. Like I very much like when I'm in a meet, I'm like, okay, go. Go on the
Yeah.
platform. Go do your thing. I'll stand back here.
So here's an idea, and obviously you don't have to do it, but have you ever thought about doing maybe like a weightlifting seminar where you go and
Yeah. So I did one. I've done a couple. I did one. Wow, I can't even remember where it is. It was like on the border. I'm actually really glad I brought one of my coaches with me that spoke Spanish because there
Mhm,
was a really big language barrier with like half the people there, and I'm like, oh man, my Spanish is not great.
mhm.
Yeah, I always tell people like if you want me to do one, you can reach out. Um, I think I could definitely crush a seminar. I could do really well.
100%. I think you can get away with doing like, I don't know when your off season is, but maybe doing like a tour, setting dates, contacting gyms. I would love
Yeah.
for you to come to the Valley. I would definitely
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I don't know. I always tell people, I'm like, you can just reach out. Like, if you want me
Yeah.
to come, like, so the gym that I did it down there, I was like, hey, like, if you can get, I think I told them 30. If you can get 30 people, that'll pay $40 for like a 4 hour seminar, I'll come down. And they did easy. I think they found like 40 people.
Hmm.
Um, so it was cool. And it's one of those things too. It's just important. It's pointless to do a seminar if you don't have like a plan after the seminar.
Oh, I
Like, you
get you.
know,
Yes, yes.
like
Like a
then it's
follow
just
up.
like, yeah, it's like going and taking a random algebra class for 1 day and then you never practice your algebra again. Well, it's kind of a waste of money. Um, so that's something that I would like just to go maybe be like, because there, yeah, as you know, I mean, there's not any weightlifting gyms in the valley.
No.
And that's why I do have so many remote athletes in the valley. Um, so that's something that would be cool to be like, hey, like if you're kind of on the fence about being a weightlifter, I'll come do a seminar, and then if you want to have a conversation about joining remotely, we can. I think that's way more conducive to
Yeah.
long-term success than just like, hey, come fix my snatch in 2 hours, and then I'm not going to work on it for a year.
I think it'll also like inspire a lot of people, or maybe people who are on the fence with it, and
Yeah,
they get to see that group of people come together and really just admire weightlifting, and it might have a positive effect. Who knows? There might be coaches that branch out, gyms that branch
yeah.
out off of that. But
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, our door's always open to drop-ins. So if somebody ever wants to drive up from the valley or anywhere really and just come drop in at Bear, we don't even charge for drop-ins. If somebody wants to just come drop in for a day and get a little better, our doors are always open.
well, I'm gonna take you on the offer because I'm going to San
Come on.
Antonio next week with my wife.
Yeah?
So
Well, come on.
yeah, we're going for a little vacation, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll keep in contact with you. Maybe I can drop in.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, Brittany, I appreciate you so much again for your time. It was an honor. I enjoyed our conversation. I think it was a great one. And one more time for the people listening, where can they find you?
Really just Instagram. So, well, we have our website, bearbarbell.com, or you can just go to Bear's Instagram or SlimThick64. It doesn't matter. I run both pages. Either way, you can always reach out if you have a question, if you are interested in joining. I will say personally, I'm capped taking athletes. It's been a long time coming, but I do have many coaches under me that are excellent that are, taking on whoever wants to join.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Guys, thank you all for tuning in. If you did tune in so far, make sure you go check her out. And as always, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you share with 1, 2 people because it could definitely help them out as well. You can find the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, wherever else that you get your podcasts with The Common Podcast. You can also find the best way to contact us is through Instagram, which is The Real Common Podcast. Thank you all so much. And until next time, we'll catch y'all later. Bye. Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome.
On the track.